All right, let's talk about this new GOP initiative and how the commitment to America and other hot-button issues just might impact the upcoming midterm elections in November. And with that, we bring in tonight's political panel, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, who is really a gem. And speaking of gems, how about longtime White House correspondent David Martosco? A couple of really good ones here with us tonight. I want to begin with you, David, because this is one of those circumstances where people talk about it and it sounds good on paper, but will it produce the way it did back in 1994? What do you think of this commitment to America?
Well, I think there are four main buckets of policies they're going to have, and the only one that matters is the first one. I quote St. James of Carville, it's still the economy, stupid. That's all that's going to matter. Record inflation, another interest rate hike by the Fed. People are going to start, imagine you have a variable rate mortgage. You're going to start feeling that tomorrow. Economy, economy, economy. Nobody is going to choose which congressperson to vote for this fall on the basis of their transgender sports policy or their position on government oversight. None of it matters but the economy.
I think you're 100% correct on that. There are some edge issues that sometimes percolate up to the forefront. Leslie, I think the choice issue is one of them. I want to share a soundbite from Kellyanne Conway and get your reaction afterwards. Listen to what she had to say about what Democrats are doing vis-a-vis pro-choice versus the pro-life debate. Listen here.
The GOP has made its agenda perfectly clear for months. A nationwide ban on abortion, Medicare and Social Security on the chopping block, raising taxes on working families. While Democrats continue to fight to defend a woman's right to choose.
A lot to unpack there. You heard Chuck Schumer at the very outset saying that really what Republicans are trying to do, Leslie, is limit choice across the country. You heard Kellyanne Conway conversely suggest that really what Democrats want is to be able to abort a baby up until birth. I think both edges of this are probably not what the mainstream believes, and yet those positions are out there. Your take on what was said there and how might that impact the midterms?
Well, as a pro-choice Democrat, no, I don't think it should be birth, but I do think for people who are pro-life, they need to care about the life of the child after. And although they wanted to check off a few boxes, let's look at history and how they have voted. The legislative votes of Republicans just don't add up when it comes to health care, when it comes to education, not just for the child, but for the mother. A lot of people would say they're pro-fetus, not they're pro-life. But getting back to these issues, speaking of the Dobbs decision and abortion, 5 hours ago, we saw online in the state of Colorado, it is #2 next to the economy among voters. In the state of New Mexico, Latinos now have an increase in concern about abortion and actually a decrease in concern about the economy and inflation specifically. And then when we just look at numbers, just looking at Ohio, for example, when you have nearly a 12% gain among registered voters, that's women that have registered to vote, 12% more so than the men who registered to vote. I don't believe that it's just going to be the economy, stupid, even though James Carville is right. Economy's numero uno. But in some places, Colorado and other places as well, abortion is #2 among voters.
Yeah, maybe #2, but I do think it's fair to suggest, you even made sort of a point there, maybe not up until birth, and the follow-up obviously would be, well, up until when? That becomes the big debate, I think, among some. And yet, David, I think Leslie's point is a strong one, which is ultimately people will vote their pocketbook, but there are these other issues that certainly could make an impact as we get closer to November. I just want to get your take and your sense of where we are with respect to maybe the horse race aspect of this, David. Are you feeling like the GOP has the House solidly, the Senate is a toss-up? Does that change or vary much between now and then?
No, I really don't think so. I think we're going to have closely divided chambers no matter what happens. I think the Republicans will control both sides of the Capitol. And these edge issues might help. Look, the border is not going to be a big play in Montana. But if you're looking at tight Senate races in Arizona and Nevada, the border will affect that. I still maintain that in sort of 27, 28 states in America where the abortion laws haven't changed and aren't going to, it's really hard to motivate women there to care about that issue enough to pull a lever based on it. In some other places, yeah, it's an edge issue, and sometimes edge issues tip you over the edge. But big picture, I still think the Republicans are in fine shape as long as they're not too proud to go right through Rahm Emanuel's front yard and say these are some crises and we can't let them go to waste.
Leslie, in the 45 seconds we have left or so, there is a bit in Axios. I just want to share quickly, get your response to what was said. This is the headline: surging interest in abortion falls as the border rises. And the piece says Democrats have been laser focused on abortion as a winning issue, but the new data shows a waning interest nationally after the initial surge that followed the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. Meanwhile, searches related to immigration and the border vaulted into the top 10 last week as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis grabbed national attention by flying asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard. Your take on what that might mean as we head down the stretch?
Nothing. And the reason is because registered voters are what I care about, and it wasn't actually a spike. I was surprised. If you remember, right after the ruling, we didn't see a lot of people registering to vote. We didn't see the outrage. It took a bit. And actually, we're seeing those huge numbers increase in registration, specifically among females, and not just Ohio, but many states in the country. So I love Axios, but at the same time, I don't think what people are searching for necessarily. I mean, I think, people also search for things like crazy flavored Jell-O, or what's the latest Lay's potato chip going to be, and I don't think people are voting for those two items or issues.
Well, I do think you make a good point about the number of women registering. Do keep in mind school choice, what's happening in the schools. That's also a very big issue among American women, particularly suburban women. Leslie and David, as always, I appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.